Hey gems, today we are talking about how we can spot abusers, okay? I'm going to be sharing with you the early signs that are sometimes quite subtle and we may miss them. Abusive relationships, they can have good and bad days. What makes dating violence so confusing is the love is all meshed up with the abuse. Don't worry, I'm here today to share the early signs that you need to be aware of so that things don't escalate, okay? We are on a journey back to wholeness, back to ourselves, back to increasing our self-worth and our self-esteem, because what? We all deserve to be treated right. We are all humans, okay? We are created and we're wonderfully made. I'm sharing with you 12 early signs of an abuser or an abusive relationship. So into the first one, which is number 12. The person has very low self-esteem. They have a poor image of themselves. It can always look something like this. If they tear the people around them down and it kind of brings them this satisfaction. They do that to boost their own self-worth because it's so low. They need to tear someone down in order to feel worthy. And it can start from them tearing others down, but it then escalates to tearing you down, okay? If you feel like your self-esteem is in tatters, maybe it's because of how your partner is treating you. Number 11, jealousy. I think this is pretty much self-explanatory. It's just intense envy and almost paranoia, which leads to them leading their victims or you into isolation. So this can translate into anything like, you cannot talk to this person, you cannot go here, you cannot wear that, you cannot be with your friends, you cannot be alone. They are jealous of who will see your self-worth and maybe boost your self-confidence and then eventually leave them, okay? So they need to find a way to keep you in isolation because they do not want you to be taken away from them. And don't confuse this with them caring about you. Abusers, they are very manipulative and they enjoy being able to have control over you. That's my next point. Having control over you. They want to have complete and utter control of the relationship. So it's one-sided in terms of control. This can look anything like your views are never validated, your views or your opinions, your needs, your wants are never actually important. They don't matter. So what this means is essentially you don't matter. Anything and everything that will transpire in that relationship has to come from the abuser. Is any of this resonating with your current situation? Don't worry, there is hope. Wait till the end and I will share what you can do about it, where you can find help. All right, into the next one. Number 9, their home life. Okay. If you haven't seen my attachment styles video, I will link it down below and in the cards. The way someone grew up, okay, so if they saw abuse growing up, their dads abused their mum or vice versa, or their brother or their sibling abuses their girlfriend or boyfriend, this is something that gets engraved in the person. So as a child, they grew up with this. They start to think that it's normal behavior. So I'm not defending them, but I'm letting you understand where sometimes this home life dynamic comes from. And if you see these things, so if your partner talks about home life being quite tough, they saw abuse, if they haven't been to therapy to really work through their trauma that they've witnessed, chances are they will then start to repeat those practices they saw because the dysfunction has now become normalized in their life. And trust me, you don't want to be that experiment. If you see these early signs, The exit is waiting for you, my sister. The door is waiting for you, my brother. You need to leave, because as we're going down the line up till number 1, you're going to know that this does get worse. There are early signs, but it does get worse. Number 8, this is quite similar to the previous one, but this one is anger or hatred. My pen. This is anger and hatred directed towards mothers, okay? When they hate their mothers, please run. It's a recipe for disaster. Until they can seek help to heal those wounds, the trauma that they went through, they will start to unleash their resentment and their frustrations and their anger and their hatred on you. And you will understand why in a couple of points down the line. And this can look anything like they talk harshly or degrading or just unpleasantly about their mother. Maybe their mother wasn't really there for them. She was absent for whatever reason. Anything like that, they're probably going through abandonment issues, okay? And they will use you as an emotional punching bag. And trust me, you don't want to be an emotional punching bag. You see what happens in boxing? Yeah, no. This leads to the next point, number 7, displaced aggression, okay? This can be consciously or unconsciously. They can find fault in something that is unrelated to the problem at hand. So for example, they hate their mum or they have resentment towards their mum. You can be doing something that reminds them of their mum, and then all of a sudden the frustrations start to be unleashed on you. Not pretty. That's one way that it can transpire. Other ways is, you know, maybe at work, they had a stressful day at work, they had a stressful day at uni or at school or just out and about in traffic. And then all of a sudden they come home to you and they're just unleashing their anger and their frustration. This is a sign of very low and poor emotional maturity. They aren't able to regulate their emotions and they just feel like, I just got to unleash. Unhealthy, very unhealthy. We are all in control of our emotions and we have to learn to be in control of our emotions. That isn't your responsibility to manage that for someone else. So if they put that burden on you, know that they are using emotional manipulation on you. I've got a whole video on that, which I'll link it down below as well. Number 6, they have very rigid role expectations. It's all part of the controlling tactic because in their head, they're very close-minded. A woman, you need to be submissive, compliant, dependent, and the man is the boss, the leader, the decision maker, macho and dominant. You might think that this dynamic is healthy, is good. We know what a woman does, we know what a man does, but the underlying factor is if you are ambitious or you want to come out of that box, let's say, your opinions, your emotions, your needs will not matter because you have to submit, you have to be compliant. And sometimes those things in an unhealthy relationship, I'm talking properly, it can be very close to being treated as a doormat, okay? I'm not saying submission equals doormat treatment, but I'm saying in an unhealthy relationship. So if the abuser has this mindset, okay, that's what's going to happen. Only submit to someone who is high value and reciprocates the love that God has taught them to bestow on their wives. Let's go with the ancient English here. Bestow on your wife or your partner, okay? Number 5, the Jekyll and Hyde dual personality. Now, when this is kind of like the equivalent of extreme PMS, Women, you know what I'm talking about when we have the mood swings because of our hormones, but this is a very extreme version because it's two extreme personalities. They have the side that is bubbly, attentive, caring and loving, pleasant, and that tends to be the side that the outsiders see, but behind closed doors only you know what you are suffering. Okay, this is an evil, vindictive and just wicked person behind the scenes, and quite frankly you're the only one that can tell that they have this other side. And most often times when you describe this to the outsiders, because they only see the good part, they think you're crazy. That's linked to the whole gaslighting, manipulative tactic. Again, that will be in my emotional manipulation video, so check it out. This personality disorder tends to be attributed to narcissists, sociopaths, people with bipolar disorder, and so on and so forth. I will do a video going into that, hopefully in the future, if you would like that. Number 4, we're getting there. Are you still with me? Number 4, this is quick temper and low impulse control. What did I say about our emotions? We are 100% in control of our emotions. It isn't your partner's responsibility to regulate your emotions, and putting that on them is a manipulative tactic. If you've noticed that your partner will strike at any given impulse, okay, and it's normally aggression and anger, they're easily provoked into anger and they use a lot of physical aggression to solve their problems. Run for the hills, my dear. Run for the hills. Anyone who leaves themselves to the demise of, I couldn't control myself, I did this because you made me, you provoked me. No, that means they lack the ability to take accountability and responsibility for their actions. This isn't somebody you should be with. But again, you might struggle to see these signs, so keep your eyes open, because most times they do show us these things, but most times we are blinded by love, so we don't see them. So unblind yourself and start to see them for what they are. Now we're getting really thick here, you know, the pot is thickening. Number 3, substance abuse. This tends to be the topic that not a lot of people like to talk about because it's recreational, you know. I'm just drinking wine here, I'm just smoking here, you know, it's very fancy, but there's nothing fancy about it, because most times people who do abuse alcohol and other narcotics they tend to again, because they can't take accountability, all of a sudden it's the cigarette's fault for making them hit you. All of a sudden it's the alcohol that they drank too much, that's the reason why they hit you, or etc. Be mindful of that. If they struggle to control themselves in that area of their life, you can tell that they probably won't control themselves when it comes to what they drink and what they smoke and even what they eat. And most often times the victim has been programmed to also make excuses that I was only hit because they drank too much. The victim is conditioned and programmed in making excuses for the abuser as well. Number 2, everything has to come from them. They need to dictate what you wear. They need to dictate what you eat, where you go, your choice of friends. You know, the list is endless. The bottom line is they want absolute control over you. You are a human being. You are nobody's property, okay? You are nobody's property. You are independent, and in a relationship, you are interdependent, okay? Nobody should have that full control of yourself, because that means you've lost control of your own self. And number 1, are you even ready for this one? If they hit walls, if they throw things, if they name call, okay? this escalates into brutal domestic violence later down the line, okay? You might think they're just throwing it because they're angry, they'll cool down. No, next time, if you're in the way, or even if you're not in the way, it will hit you, or they'll aim it at you, okay? If they're punching walls, now, next minute, you will be the wall that they punch. Why? Because they need to let their frustrations out. And the thing is, what you need to understand about abusers is that everything that I've mentioned today, they are programming you. They are training you to be receptive of the abuse that will happen later down the line. So it's absolutely key as you're on this journey to wholeness and self-love that you really pay attention to these things, because if you brush it off as it's okay, they cool down, and sometimes we have good days, and you make all these excuses, sometime down the line your self-esteem will be so low you will be crippled into staying, and you won't even be able to leave, even though you know that relationship is killing you. So I'm really pleading with you, okay? If you're struggling or you've sensed that yourself or your relationship in any of these points, seek help. I'm going to put some details on the screen and in the description box if you need to speak to someone, okay? Because keeping it all in, it's a recipe for disaster. You are worth so much more, okay? You are worth so much. Someone's willing to go to the moon and back just to hear you laugh, or even just to see you smile. And here you are taking punches from a little child, an adult, but they're acting like a child right about now, but a child that can kill you down the line. So this is very serious. You have the right to have your own opinions. You have the right to express your opinions, and for those opinions to be respected by your partner. You have the right to have your needs be as important as your partner's. A relationship is between two people. You are allowed to grow as an individual all by yourself and on your own terms. You are allowed to change your mind. You are not, okay? It's not your responsibility to take the responsibility and accountability of your partner's actions. They are in full control of that. Even if they say they don't have control, they do. I'm telling you that. You have the right to be respected and not be abused sexually, emotionally, and physically. You have the right to break up with somebody because they serve you no longer, and if anything, they're trying to kill you and you are afraid of your life. You have that right to leave. You are not property. You are nobody's property. And last but not the least, if not the most important, is you are allowed to be happy, okay? You are allowed to be happy. Even if you don't feel like it, even if you haven't heard it before in your life, I'm here to tell you that you are allowed to be happy. So why not start that today? Okay? You need to start that today. You are not alone. We're all here for you. I'm here for you. So if you want to speak to me, my details will be down below. Just send me a message, and I don't mind talking to you on a one-to-one basis. You know, you're not alone. We're here for you. All right, until next time, take care and God bless. Bye bye.